This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Today on Believe in People, guest co-host Kerrin Black and I are joined by Dr. Eyal Levit, a doctor, inventor, author, and storyteller whose work bridges science, art, and compassion. He's traveled the world, met incredible people, and believes deeply in the power of kindness to change lives. Through his writing, From the King's Race to the Lost Art, Dr. Levit reminds us that healing happens not only through medicine, but through imagination, courage, and connection. Welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Kerrin, for taking the time from your busy schedule to interview me. And I hope this will be a useful and educational program for the rest.
Well, thank you for that. Well, okay, before we even get started into your amazing journey, what's something that sort of never fails to make you smile, no matter where you are in the world?
A smile from someone else. It never, when I see someone smile, my reflex, like a baby, is to smile back. The other thing that helps me smile is looking at nature and seeing how amazing it is. It always has the energy to replenish, to restart, no matter what.
So true.
So
Amazing.
that and when I see that I think Louis Armstrong said it the best when he in his song I see babies smile, I see them grow, and just smell the roses. Everything around us is so beautiful if we stop for a second, as the idiom says, or smell the roses.
Eyal, you obviously had an amazing journey and lived an incredible life thus far. So if you could just give some context or background from like where you started to where you are now, and then obviously we'll get into the book. But yeah, just for the audience members that don't know.
Just a small question, just something small.
So that's an important question, because you can't separate the writer from his own life. It always finds ways to be imbued in his stories. So I was born in Ukraine, in a country that was built in order to bring equality and socialism and communism when everyone is equal. But despite its promises, end up in reality being much more suppressive of divergent opinions, and not only a freedom of speech, but also freedom of work and ideologies. And specifically, it was very difficult for Jews there. And so in 1970, end of 71, beginning of 72, my family left. I was only 8 months old, to Israel. And in Israel, we lived through wars. I found my identity as a Jew there, found about the history of oppression, of the Holocaust, of the attempt by generations of Jews that were without their homeland, always yearning to get back to their ancestral homeland, to Zion, to Israel, and trying though to forget that and make a new home wherever they were, sometimes for generations. And each time they would be uprooted only because they were Jews. Only because they were Jews. If they converted, they would be fine. But if they wanted to keep their independent ideology, independent religion, for some reason it bothered people. And the idea that we do not, as a minority group that is only making up less than 0.2% of the world's population, is not having its own pride, because they always have to submit to someone else in order to be accepted, was something that really pressed psychologically on my mind. And finally, when I was in Israel, having the ability to be who you want to be and have, arguments on other issues, not about the fact that you're Jewish, but the fact that, I think I like chocolate and you like whatever,
True.
meat or something else. The normal arguments that people have, disagree on politics, disagree on whatever, but not about the right for you to, because you were born one way or the other and generations back, etc. So that was able to, in the background of my grandfather, always talking about how the pogroms happened in Russia and how he was part of the revolution and how he was disappointed by the revolution that promised emancipation, but actually left them as a fringe group. Always put a weight on my mind. And then from there we moved to Africa. And in Africa, I had the opportunity to be the only white boy in a black school in Nigeria. It was a non-school, and right away there were fights. So why? Because I was different, and because the alpha male was unhappy that the teacher was paying attention to me. And at that time, of course, I didn't exactly fully comprehend that. But when my mom saw it, she took me out of there and private school. So I had to do my homework. I couldn't hide anymore. So I changed a lot throughout the entire time. But the most important thing that happened when I traveled back and forth between different countries in Africa and Israel, and then eventually immigrated to the United States, is that I realized that in reality, we're all the same. And each time trying to make new family, like Spots, like anyone else, what you need to do is you need to approach it with an open heart and open mind. And you can't approach it with fear. And once you approach it with a positive attitude, the one thing that will unite everyone outside of your religion, outside of your ideologies, political or other likes or dislikes, is athletics. And I found that when you speak either music or athletics, it's a universal language. So when I was in Africa, the sounds and the rhythms and the dances that I participated in, they were the heartbeat. You kind of felt it in your heart. You felt it vibrating, even if you didn't understand the language. And when I was playing, soccer or basketball or doing martial arts there, it really didn't matter. All we cared about is to be the best that we can be. It didn't matter the color or anything else. And so this taught me that if you want to show someone what's really on the inside, you have to find a different way to interact. And the best way to do it were like the Olympics, is to do it through athletics. And obviously we all know the story about Jesse Owens and the famous German who I forgot his name in the long jump, who helped him by because he almost was cut out of the long jump because he kept overstepping. And so he gave him a towel to help him. And even though he was from Germany, he didn't believe in this race ideology. Why? Because he was an athlete. Exactly. He looked at it differently. He interacted with people on a different level. And so when I was envisioning, sorry, I'm passing on to the book and I'm having a monologue, I apologize. But when I was envisioning the story of Spots, that was what was in the back of my mind, trying to unite people and show them that when all the parameters are evened out, when all if you give everyone equal opportunity, you really truly see what they're capable of, and you get to shine. And when you shine that way, if you shine with kindness and with care, you don't shadow someone else, but you help raise not only yourself, but those who are around you. And so when he brings his family over, that's the same idea. He says, but you are my family. It's like, you're not horses, but you are my family. Who cares if you're a chicken or if you're a bull or if you're a cow or whatever? We're all together. So that was the idea behind it.
And Eyal, is that so? Your motive? Well, first of all, it's two parts. First of all, why did you move from Israel to Africa?
Oh, that was my parents moved and they were sent by the government to help in Nigeria. My mom was a physician. She was treating malaria and
Oh,
other conditions. And my father, this was first in 1970. Let's see, I was first four, so that's 1975, and then again later on when I was 7 years old, so that was 1978. So 1975 for 2 years, and then 1978 for another 5 years.
so were both your parents physicians?
My father, sorry, was a general contractor. He worked for Israeli company Solel Boneh, but because in Africa and especially Nigeria was one of the OPEC countries, although they received help from Israel, officially they could not admit it. So it had to be under a pseudonym, and the shell corporation, you can call the name, was RCC, Reynolds Construction Corporation.
Oh,
And
I
so
see.
over there, we also interacted with uh, other countries that came in to build bridges and roads and provide infrastructure for the population. And I got to meet a lot of people from Germany, got to watch them drink the beer with those big, long, glasses that they did like that, and play soccer. Have each country had their own kind of soccer team, and they would play against one another. I had the opportunity to go with my dad in the jungles multiple times, suffered myself from malaria. So they were supposed to build a Pan-African highway that will connect east to west, but because there were a lot of coups, it never really
Right.
materialized. But yeah, I was in Nigeria. The funny thing in Nigeria was that the dogs don't bark over there.
Huh.
And
Why
the
is
reason
that?
Oh,
and the reason they don't bark is that during the war that happened there, and the reason the war happened was religious war, stupidity,
mm,
Muslims against Christians. The Muslims were trying to annihilate the Christians. I mean, unfortunately, now it's happening there again. You
mm.
think anybody would learn anything from the past? So Israel helped in Biafra. It helped the Christians to defend against the Muslims who were trying to annihilate them. And people were very hungry. There was real starvations. And so what they did is they killed the dogs. So they heard the dog bark, they would kill the dog to eat the dog. And so the dogs
Uh,
learned not to bark. So the dogs
Wow.
there don't bark. And I,
wow.
I met some people from Nigeria because I teach at Columbia, and they themselves did not know. There were Christians who emigrated, ran away, emigrated here, and they sometimes went to visit in Nigeria back, but they are dermatologists who took fellowship with me, or I teach at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, and they didn't know the reason the dogs don't bark. It's like, yeah, it's strange. And my grandma did tell me, but we didn't know why. So
Wow,
that's the
that's
reason.
fascinating. And Eyal, what? So there's so many questions. Sorry, Karen. I'm just
No, no,
excited.
no, go ahead.
What? So was writing for you a way to release? Because there's so much there in your life. Because was that something that drew you to writing, or no? Am I completely off?
No, 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 you're never off. First of all, writing is always an outlet. It may not begin with that idea, but when you start pouring, you say your heart out, right? It's pouring out, so it's always part of you, and that's why it's important to know where, the biography of the writer. But the reason I wrote it was not that. Um, my goal is to try and make this world a better place in any way that I can, whether it's through the medical practice, whether it is through donations to agencies that would do that, or whether it is through movies or writing. I was just yesterday in a premiere of a movie that I helped sponsor. And the reason I helped sponsor it because I thought the story needs to be told. As a matter of fact, I didn't have the money for that, to give them the money for that. But I went and I asked for the money and I borrowed and I lent the money in order to help them because they needed it. And nobody else was believing in them. and now they were bought by HBO, and the movie is very good. But you need to believe in it. If and I have done that again and again. And when I did it for the good reasons, meaning when I did it to help something, I was like, when they called me, they wanted to do a Broadway show, for example, and the Broadway show, they told me about what it is, and they said, well, there was a off Broadway and it was good. I'm like, enough, you don't need to tell me more. I know the story about this guy. This story has to be told. I'm gonna get the money for you.
What was the story, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes, it was the story in the 1900. There was three. There were three lawsuits claiming that a Jew killed a young person in order to drink their blood for religious reasons.
Is this true? Is that a true? Did people thought that that was true?
Yeah, actually, they still do that. Think that now in the Muslim world, even though in the rest of the world, in the Christian world, it's not there anymore. It started from England. That the blood libel started in the 1100s and became much more. That one failed, and the successful one that ended up with torture and death of the Jews happened in 12. I can 10, 12, 15 or something like that in England.
Huh.
Anyway, and from then on, it kind of spread around. And there's in the Canterbury Tales, there is a story about that as well. So 1300s. Anyway, so the funny thing is, in Tsarist Russia, the KGB tried to blame the Jews, and the court that was from peasants saw the truth and said, no, he didn't do it. This is all propaganda, and they freed him. And the same thing happened a little bit before in Europe, and they blamed him twice. This was with Dreyfus, so this was not for the blood drinking. For the blood drinking, it was in Syria. Which they tortured also the Jews, but eventually, due to pressure from United States, the Shah and France kind of gave up on that excuse that there was a Coptic Christian that was killed, and the French ambassador said that it's probably the Jews who did that. So the third one was the case actually in the United States, and what was sad about that case is that it was in 1913, I believe. It was a pencil factory, and he was the head of the pencil factory. And there was a 13-year-old girl that was murdered by a black person who told that he is the one who murdered to his lawyer, but because of lawyer-client privileges and other reasons, the lawyer could not reveal it. And the person who was blamed was the head of the factory, was from Brooklyn, a guy who was Jewish, and they said that he was doing it for religious reasons. And they took him to jail. He was trying to appeal it. The governor of the state actually said that he's right, eventually, after he reviewed all the papers, and he changed it from death sentence by hanging to life in prison, and said, don't worry, we'll change it even more afterwards. And he had to run away because the mobs wanted to kill him for that. He had to run away, and he couldn't even tell. The entire police force had to protect him. But then what happened to that Jew is that they end up lynching him. They went into the jail, and on purpose they left. They knew they're gonna come. They left without security the place, so they took him and they end up lynching him. And the photographs end up resurrecting the Ku Klux Klan. So the Ku Klux Klan actually started again because of that event in 1913. So the entire story had to be told. Obviously, it's a Broadway show, so they couldn't share all those facts. And the sad thing was, there was a young kid. He was at that time, I think, 14, and he saw who murdered him. He saw that this was this black guy who murdered the girl, and he liked Mary, that girl. And he told his grandma, he told his mom, and mom told him, don't get involved in that. It's not your thing. Don't get involved in that. And so you see when people see the truth and don't say what happens,
Mm.
an entire life got destroyed. So that Broadway show actually ended up winning many prizes, and we got back our investment. We didn't make money on it. We got our investment, and that's the key thing is that what I was trying to say is when you invest into things that are kind and good, you end up not losing in the long run, even monetarily.
It's true.
But that's the purpose. I tell people, well, what's the purpose of money? You know, as Solomon said, you're born naked, you'll leave this world naked. You can't take anything with you, but you can leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And we don't need to have a situation like Alfred Nobel, who read his obituary while he was alive to realize that he was considered a death, uh, angel, and realizing that he needs to change his future, and therefore he wrote the Nobel, he created the Nobel Prize. You don't need to wait for that. So we need now to awake and to try and think what can we do to make the world a better place for the next generations, whoever those may be, for humans, for animals, for our entire planet.
Absolutely. So, Eyal, what led you to the writing of The King's Race? Because we want to obviously talk about the children's book as well. So,
Sorry.
where
The,
did
the,
the passion or the inspiration for that come from?
So I like to play games with my kids. That's an interesting thing for authors if they want to. And what we do is on long rides, we have everyone pick a word, and then we go in a circle, and each one has to tell a story, and those story has to include the three words. And when we went in one of the rides, there was this three words. There was um, can't remember what it was. There was a race. There was horse, and there was can't remember. It was a farmer or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Was it a king or a farmer? And so I created the story. It was a little different. As I'm driving the car, I was telling them the story, and they liked it as many other stories that we're creating, and they did their own story. And so a year or so later, when I was asked to read something for my son, and he was in kindergarten. I said, yes, I'll be happy to read for the class something. And as a procrastinator, I go the last moment, in the evening, I look in his bookshelves, and I look at the books, and there's nothing that I like, nothing that spoke to me the way the books that my mom read to me, that were Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, an interesting story in and of itself, a great grandson of a black slave who was brought from Ethiopia and became the admiral of the seas for Tsar Peter the Great of Russia. So his great grandson becomes this amazing poet who changes the entire Russian language, still having a little bit this black curls, this little black little complexion, always feeling a little uncomfortable about it, but writing incredible, incredible, very colorful stories. So those stories made me feel like I was flying with the heroes and experiencing all those amazing, magical um, times. And nothing excited me that way. And so I went ahead and I said, you know what, I'm going to write something myself. And so I sat up all night till like 4 in the morning, did not come up until I finished writing it. And then went and read it to them and made the voices for different barn animals, because I can do it. I can do, because I lived in Africa. So I can, or I can do, or I can do, so I can do the different animals, the
That's
horses,
cool.
whatever. So I was using that, and they were laughing and they were enjoying. So I was like, you know what? It's got to be made into a book. And they wanted, oh, we want to hear, because they didn't even get a chance to read them the entire story. We want to hear everything. So I started writing it, but until I had the opportunity to meet Karen, Paul, through Kelly and the Brave children's books publication, it really would be stuck in the closet and not get the exposure that it needed in order for people to enjoy it, because that really was the purpose. It's going to be out on November 4th,
Ah,
election time here in
oh,
New York, but a lot of busy times. But it's already ready. It just needs to be, the back cover, the reviews, everything needs to be set up. So I wrote it a while back, but then we went through editing
Yeah,
and
the illustrations are beautiful though.
yes,
Is it?
beautiful.
And do you want to transform that into video, visual? Do you want to do a film or an animation?
So interesting that you asked. About 2 years ago, we wrote a screenplay. I did not love very much everything, so I was going through changing it. But, one thing fell into another. October 7th, happened, and a lot of other things pulled me out of that to try and, defend our democracies. So that kind of took the backstage.
But may I ask you, where did the physician come into play? Was that because of your family, your mom, where does that lend itself into your imagination and what you're doing?
I think when you wish someone anything, there are two things that you really wish them. You wish them health and happiness. You can't have happiness if you're not healthy.
Mm.
If someone else is sick, you cannot be happy too. So those are pillars, and when they start cracking, our entire foundation, everything we built everything on, starts crumbling. And so it's important for us to realize that we have the power to heal ourselves, but we also need others to help that happen. And the healing is not only physical, but it's emotional. So you cannot separate them, just like you cannot separate, your brain from your body, or your soul from yourself. It's the same thing. So that's why it had to be part of it. And in order to really push someone to do something and have a purpose, sometimes you need to hit it where it is most crucial.
Mm.
And this is really, I find, through my experience, is the thing that truly either motivates people to change. You don't realize that you need to start taking care of your sugar unless you have problems, because you don't feel it. You don't realize you have to stop smoking until maybe you have the lung cancer. So that's the idea why.
Well, this is Believe in People and podcast, and I want to ask you, why do you believe in people?
I believe in people because we are all born the same. And when we find out the beauty and we look into the soul of someone else, we see that we're truly having the same purpose. We were all, I mean, we're now in the Jewish tradition, we're reading the Bible again. And when you read the Bible, the reason that it says that God created one person and from him everyone else were created, the translators, or the people who explain it, say that this is so that we don't argue and say my father was more important than your father, because at the end of the road we all came out of one equal, the same coin. And therefore our differences should be what makes us stronger, not what causes us to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that we all have that capacity in ourselves. Unfortunately, in order for it to come out, sometimes some people may need one stressor and other people may need another stressor. But I meet people, and that's one of my friends, best friends. He's Indian, went to medical school with me, Ami. On my wedding, he said, "You know what? You always see the good in people." And it's fascinating. It's amazing. I don't know why. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is because I traveled to so many countries and I saw in reality that what separates us is not what's the facade, but what is on the inside. And what's on the inside, very often, unless there is a genetic problem that can happen, is how we're brought up. So you can indoctrinate, like the Hamas indoctrinates people. I just met with an IDF soldier, showed me a video, photographs of how in kindergarten they have this wooden AKs to teach the kids already to fight, and they have a map of Israel with saying that you came from there, you came from there, lying them that this land was stolen from them. So indoctrinate them. Instead of that, you need to teach people to have their own creative imagination and
Yes.
not close them in from early age and hope that the light will be able to crack through that cement that was created around them in this figurative tunnel. But in order to do that, for them to even listen to you, for them to even listen to you, you need to, from young age, allow them to have their ability to ask questions and be curious. And
Wow. Thank you so much for your time today. We are so grateful.
I know I'm grateful, Amy, Karen. Thank you very much for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much, Eyal. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you.